The Snyder Cut coming to the HBO Max platform in 2021. Big news this past week, Dave. I mean, the Snyder Cut started out as like a real fan movement and then became kind of like an online joke in a way. At least in my mind, I kind of just thought it was a laugh and a bunch of people who couldn't accept that their favorite superheroes, their favorite stories just were not being portrayed on the screen, maybe to the level of excellence that they had hoped. Wanting this thing to be out there to prove that their heroes and their stories were in fact better than were being portrayed, that these characters were more interesting. Well, those fans are getting what they want, Dave, because Zack Snyder is indeed going to be releasing the Snyder Cut, potentially a 3+ hour long movie or a 6-part mini series on HBO Max sometime next year. How are you feeling about this news? Is this good for superheroes and IP and all this stuff? Tell me, Dave, how should I feel about this?
Yeah, well, I think it was interesting is there's the angle of should you bow down to fan pressure and online campaigns and that sort of thing. Largely speaking, most of the release of Snyder Cut people are acting in good faith and genuinely just were campaigning for the original version of Justice League, of course, that Zack Snyder had largely shot but had not finished, and then, of course, had to leave the project when his child passed. And, of course, we know Joss Whedon came in and redid a lot of Justice League, thus resulting in a tonally scattershot and largely poor effort. And it was a commercial flop as a result. So I don't know if that's a precedent we should like. However, we don't even necessarily have to go down that road because this actually just makes a lot of sense for Warner Brothers to have this for HBO Max. Obviously, it would have been great if they had it ready for this Wednesday when the service launches. But either way, you're kind of getting all those negative or at least persistent comments about releasing the Snyder Cut off all your social media because they were always there in all the comments, right? And now you have these people are invested again in your service, and it's just going to be good press and drive interest. And while I don't necessarily expect the Snyder Cut to be like this amazing film, I am interested to see what the hell it is because Zack Snyder has kind of teased and showcased little bits and pieces on Vero, the social media site. We know there's going to be a black suit Superman, and Darkseid is actually going to be present in the film. There's a lot of this, kind of intriguing stuff. Just kind of see what Snyder had in mind. Snyder's vision. I don't know if Snyder's vision is something that we need to be that invested in through Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, and the parts of Justice League we did see that he was involved in. But it's still kind of interesting. Now, what I found most surprising was that Warner Media, HBO, everyone is giving Zack between $20 and $30 million to finish this endeavor, because as we knew with the Snyder Cut, it was really just raw footage, no VFX, no mixing of the sound or anything. So there's a lot of work needs to be done, and apparently they will be, in fact, recording new ADR, new lines, but not actually doing any reshoots. And judging off of some of the tweets, seems like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill and Momoa and Gal Gadot and everyone else is on board with this. So that's kind of cool. So I don't think it'll be anything that great, but it is a very interesting endeavor for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited about it for I think a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, but also, I think the circumstances that led to Snyder having to leave, with his daughter completing suicide, the family, choosing to kind of walk away from work at that time to focus on healing and grieving that loss. This feels not only like a win for fans, but also like a chance at redemption and completion of something for Snyder in a way. And I feel excited about that. And like you said, it makes a lot of sense for the platform. It's going to drive subscriptions, at least when it gets around time to be dropped, especially if it is released in a 6-part thing. You can't just use your 1 month free subscription on that. So potentially
that would be devious. Damn.
So there's a lot of parts at play, but I think good all around for everybody involved, and it's kind of cool to hear that all these stars are rallying back around. And so there was something about this that what didn't come across in Whedon's portrayal of the story that all these actors were so on board with and want to see carried through. So you have to feel really good about that. I also feel excited because I think in a sense we've been the Flash movie has been kind of stalling, so to speak, and I think like Aquaman was good in some ways, not so great in others, and you can check out our review on that. But this feels like an opportunity for them to maybe, I don't know, correct something in a way, or move these characters in different directions that potentially Warner Brothers could move them to, especially with Flash being in such kind of like up and down. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Maybe this is a real chance for Ezra to shine a little bit more. That character.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Also, Cavill perhaps will like sign a new deal to be Superman again. There's been a lot of reporting and rumors in both directions regarding that. So I think a lot of people like Henry Cavill as a Superman, even if they haven't necessarily loved the material he's been given to work with. So that's perhaps a good thing. Now Affleck, him returning to this after obviously putting this all to bed because it was a rough time for him personally, of course, and we heard a lot about that in his press for the way back. Affleck coming back to record some lines if needed is actually kind of surprising to me. But overall, I've kind of liked where DC's been going, just in their direction. But this is kind of like a flashback to when they were trying to have a more connected multi-movie arc frame of storytelling. Granted, it was Snyder's purview, so we had some flaws, but I'm curious to see if this is just kind of a bookend and they're just looking at this for the obvious marketing and money grabbing aspects of it, or if there's any creative juice after this. Who can say right now? Along these lines, release the Colin Trevorrow episode 9 script, because all the rumors about that were great and The Rise of Skywalker was not.
That brings me to something I guess I wanted to just check on quickly with you. Do you think we're going to start seeing these sort of things happen more when a fan base is upset with the way that a story is portrayed or something comes across, that these big brands might on a much smaller scale be releasing these edits or these changes? Star Wars, like you talked about, is kind of known for making these small little edits and just putting out on platforms. Do you think we'll start seeing these sort of things happening more often, or is this a one-time thing?
Yeah, I don't think there's like a huge prevalence of tons of material on the cutting room floor ready for Zach to finish if he was just given the chance. Like, there's not a lot of these opportunities, right? Looking back, we have like the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2 is one of the more famous versions of this happening before. And yeah, I think it'll just be like just normal director's cuts. Famously, we have Blade Runner and Kingdom of Heaven. There's a lot of them, both good and bad. So yeah, I don't know if retconning your own work like George Lucas is going to suddenly become really in vogue. But who knows? Maybe if this is actually really good and executives get some ideas in their head, who knows?
Release the Lord and Miller solo cut.
Oh, that's a good one.
Now. I'd love to see that.
They filmed, I forget how much, they filmed what, 2/3 of that movie?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. Even if it was just the taste, just to see their tone, just very, very curious. Heck, there's so many versions of Rogue One. I'd love to see the other versions of Rogue One. I love that movie.
Release them, Disney Plus.